So, for those of you who follow my channel closely, which is a grand total of not even my mom, you might have noticed that I haven't posted a plan with me in a while. That was very purposeful. It's because I'm depressed. So, today I'm bringing you 4 plan with me's for the price of 1. All of my planner setups for the last 4 months, all together in one video. Will you be bored? Will you click away? Did you even click on this video to start with? I don't know, but I'm making it. So let's get started.
Come on!
So, for those of you who don't know, which is all of you because I didn't tell anyone, I started a new bullet journal. It's an Archer and Olive, and it is the love of my life. I did not film any videos setting up in this because I wanted to just enjoy the process, and also, as aforementioned, I was depressed. So, here's a little flip through of the spreads that I ended up making. I started this journal off with a Starry Night theme. I was really excited about the ability to paint in my journal finally and not have insane bleed through just from a pencil mark, so I wanted to take full advantage of that and paint away in my journal. You'll see the recurring star motif throughout this setup. Next is my future log. I used the last 6 months of the year and the next 3 months of 2021 to set up. Next to it, I did a quote page and used a quote by Virginia Woolf that says, "I am in the mood to dissolve into the sky," which I felt was pretty fitting for this setup. Next is my running list spread, which I use to keep track of tasks that need to be completed throughout the year that don't have a specific due date. It keeps me honest and keeps me from forgetting that, oh, you need to pay your car insurance. After that, I have a simple list of content that I want to consume throughout the year. Books, movies, TV shows, and of course the ever miscellaneous activity, which mostly that list has been filled with listen to Harry Potter audiobooks. I start my journal off with those kind of spreads that aren't tied specifically to 1 month, so my wants versus needs eventual purchases spread was obviously next up. I love the star detail on this page, and just let's take a second to look at that closer. Oh, I thought it was going to be so messy, but it turned out super cute. It's still messy, but in a very cute way. Those of you who know me well will know that I love quotes. I love keeping track of meaningful or funny words that people have said throughout time, and so I made this spread to keep up with the good quotes that I find. In fact, I love quotes so much that my older sister once told me I could have no original ideas because my mind was full of quotes. Some of my favorite quotes from this spread are Gillian Flynn saying, "Do you have to be mean to be funny? No, but it's quicker." And Hagrid from Harry Potter saying, "What's coming will come, and we'll meet it when it does." Next, I have my piqued my interest spread, which I use for keeping track of topics that I want to research later. Sometimes I'll be at work and I will have a flight of fancy to research Amelia Earhart obsessively, and I can't do that because I'm at work, so I'll write it down to keep it for later. Next to it is my The More You Know spread, which I use to chronicle the facts that I discovered during obsessive researching, like for the fact that some people think Amelia Earhart was eaten by coconut crabs, and that's why no one ever found her body. I use this next spread for video ideas, and I just really like the star detail on this guy. My brain dump page has been my favorite new addition to this bullet journal. I used to get flights of ideas and I just write them down on sticky notes, and I was wasting a lot of paper and I never had anywhere to put these ideas, so creating a brain dump page just gave me places to scribble things like chaotic Jake Gyllenhaal or practicing doodles of spreads that I want to do later. It just is the perfect page for me. Oh, also while I was at it, I made this collage spread to separate my beginning of the year planning from the rest of the months, and I just cut out a bunch of eyeballs, and I think it's kind of creepy and kind of adorable, and I'm obsessed. And now for the reason that you're all here, how I set up the next 4 months in my bullet journal. July started off as a fail, honestly. I had intended to do this great big daisy drawing that was going to be detailed and pretty, but I didn't sketch it out beforehand, and as a result, it looked ridiculous. You'll see me gluing over it in the next couple of slides. I used magazine directory pages to glue in as the background, and I used a collage to fill in this spread. I used this figure of a girl standing by a giant pair of scissors, and it's very couture and very dramatic, and I love it. I love this issue. This is from Modern Luxury to Alice, and it came out so cool and so pretty. Next to it, I wrote the lettering for July on a scrap piece of paper and detailed it with markers because I couldn't really write on that glossy magazine paper anyway, and I wanted the July lettering to stand out. I outlined it with a yellow Crayola Super Tips marker and stuck it right next to the figure. This next spread is my calendar spread, and honestly, it took forever. It turned out really cool looking, but I spent forever on it. I glued in magazine directory pages on the opposite side of the page of the cover page because there had been a lot of bleed through from my misshapen sunflower attempt, and so I glued it in to cover up that bleed through, and I liked the text theme throughout. I drew out a grid of 30 boxes and colored in each 6 a different shade of yellow. I then cut out these individual cubes and glued them in the shape of a calendar. I think the yellow against the text background really pops, and it made for a really cool calendar. For my quote page, I cut out a photo from the same editorial that I used on my cover page and glued that in. I had to cut it a lot smaller than I wanted to, but I think it's still a beautiful photo. I glued it in and outlined it and added a few doodly details in yellow to continue the theme. I wanted to continue the details of magazine text without having a big block of text in the background, so I took a column and ripped it into little pieces and put those blocks next to my collage. I added a quote on the other side of the page that says, "The only impossible journey is the one you never begin." I think this is sort of a manifesting quote for me. It's forcing me to get started on my shit and not just wait around and hope that good things will happen for me, but actually take action and start the journey. I realize now that I forgot to film my setup for August, so to make up for that, I'll show you some of the bonus spreads that I did throughout my journal. Most of these are companions to journaling or work spreads, but some of them are just creative collaging or doodling that I wanted to do just for fun. These next 2 spreads are just black and white doodles that I do. I like to fill up space with circles and squiggles to see how compact I can make a doodle within a small amount of space. The squiggle challenges me to draw throughout the page without lifting my pen, and the circles just involve me to see how intricate I can get. My August spreads might be my favorite of this entire year, and I am salty that I didn't film any of it. I was feeling a little creatively stifled, and so I didn't film a single thing and just let my drawing go wild. I did a skeleton and flowers theme, and I think it turned out really beautiful. I'm really happy with this, and I just love how it turned out. For the cover page, I drew a rib cage resting in a bed of flowers, and on the opposite side of that, I did my quote page and calendar page. The quote page has a skull and flowers, and it has one of my favorite quotes of all time by Fitzgerald that says, "Beauty means the scent of roses and then the death of roses." It is one of my favorite quotes about time and entropy, and for a while I was considering getting it tattooed on myself, and jury's still out on that one. Might be a little too morbid. I filled the rest of this setup with doodles of flowers, and pink and green were the color scheme for the rest of my weeklies. I think that this spread is really fun to do if you just believe in yourself and you do a lot of tracing. The flowers don't have to look actually good. You just have to use colorful markers and fill in all the blank spots with fine liner. Next up we have September. September is my birthday month, so obviously it's one of my favorite months. I wanted to make this a theme that was really special, so I used one of my grand loves of cats. I drew a bunch of cats in outer space and on clouds and on the moon, and I think it turned out really fun and cute. This spread didn't involve much color, but it did involve a lot of tracing with one of my favorite methods that I'm about to show you. To start off, you're going to pull up the image that you want to trace on your computer screen. You're going to turn the brightness all the way up and stick a sheet of paper over it with tape. Then you'll trace the image onto the paper. Then you'll flip the paper over to the other side and completely shade in with a pencil. When you put this page in your journal, you'll tape it down so it stays in place. Then you'll take a ballpoint pen and trace over the image again. All of the bold lines will press through the pencil and onto the page, and you'll have basically a perfect template to draw in later with your markers. I like to use this for simple images that I can't draw very well myself, and I like to use basic clip art that isn't someone's creative property that I'd be stealing. Since she likes to be involved in all of my projects, obviously the real Pepper had to tag along for a little bit. She's even sitting right next to me right now as I edit this. I drew my little cat sleeping on a cloud, which I thought was so cute. After that, I toyed with the idea of drawing a moon behind the cat, but I settled on drawing raindrops instead. I thought about coloring my cat in to get her coloring to match Pepper's exactly, but because of the way that Pepper is colored with splotches below her chin and on her belly, it just wouldn't show up very well. I didn't know what to do for all of the other cats, as, you know, I wanted to have cat diversity, obviously, but calico cats and tabby cats are really hard to draw, so I left all of them color-free and blank. Below this, you'll see me drawing in the name of the month, which is September, as you can probably tell because you're not a moron, and that's it for our cover page. I used the same tracing method to trace a cat hanging off the moon for this quote page. I used clip art of a cat hanging off of a tree branch. I'm glad that I traced it because honestly it was really hard to try to freehand that little hanging body. I wrote just hanging in there below the doodle, and I hate to repeat myself, but I think it's adorable. On the opposite side of the page, I did my vertical calendar layout with all the important dates in September. I highlight all of the Sundays so I can tell where I'm at in the week, but honestly, I find this to be more productive than drawing out the boxes of a normal calendar. Mostly because it takes too much math for me to figure out how to space everything. For the header of this page, I drew a bunch of stars resting on a cloud and the word September at the top. I want to take this moment to emphasize that I know about space facts, and I know that it's impossible for stars to be resting on the moon and for a cat to be hanging on the crescent moon and whatever. I think it's cute, and scientists can go jump in a lake. I'm just kidding. Scientists are holding society together right now, and we can't afford for all of you to jump in a lake. Here I set up my mood tracker, which I use to track my moods throughout the day and the fluctuations. I explain my specific mood tracker in a separate video, which I'll link above. I have expanded my mood tracker to have 5 whole pages of just notes, which I use partially for journaling and partially for notes. At the bottom of the final page, I decorated it with the phases of the moon with a sleeping cat curled up as the full moon phase. I know that this might not be particularly accurate as the phases of the moon, but guess what? I don't care. As you can see, Pepper is a very good girl who loves to journal with her mother. She especially likes to meow in the background whenever I sit at my desk for longer than 5 minutes and stop paying attention to her. I don't know what it is about my desk chair, but whenever I am sitting up above the ground and facing away from her, she just feels the need to scream. It's great. I love it. Next up, we have October, the final month in this multi-plane with me. I chose a quote-unquote sexy Halloween costume theme for this setup, and I think it's really cute. It's based off of this vintage drawing. I honestly had a hard time finding my theme for October. I looked through Pinterest for hours and asked all my coworkers and all my friends what I should do, and it wasn't until I found this sketch that I felt actually inspired. I loved the ideas of ghouls having fun, and I liked the little pinup details of this sketch. I used my same tracing method to put our ghost gal into the spread. I'm not good at drawing human figures, so you'll see this method used throughout. Once the outline was penciled in place, I used my Stabilo fine liners to make sure that it was permanent. Below our ghost girl, I also drew in the name for the month of October. I then colored in some of the details with my mild liners and my Crayola super tips, and completely colored the background in with a yellow super tip. You'll also see me attempt to draw a pumpkin in freehand and then realize that I have no idea how to draw pumpkins and scratch that idea completely. I then used the same vintage Halloween sketch to put in the figure of a pumpkin-headed girl opposite my calendar page. I was able to draw pumpkins much better when I had a guide. I like this tracing method because it allows me to do art a lot more easily than attempting to do my substandard skills by myself. I know a lot of journalers have a natural artistic ability, but I just don't have the same kind of knack at drawing. But I still think that I can make my spreads really beautiful. This journal is just for me, and I like to make it as pretty as possible in any way that I can. I colored the pumpkin-headed girl in and drew my calendar on the right-hand side of the page. Below our pumpkin-headed girl, I wrote the quote, "Eat, drink, and be scary," which I just thought was really funny. I did my vertical calendar layout on the other side of the page, and that gives us all set for October. I hope that this video gives you some inspiration for the coming months, even though I'm about as late in setting up as one could be. It has definitely made me feel a whole lot better. Thanks for watching, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!